The sun hammered down on the auction block like a punishment. Heat waves rose from the packed dirt, turning the world into a shimmering haze. And on that wooden platform, with splinters biting in her bare feet, Lily Jiang stood as still as she could. The crowd below pressed closer, their boots grinding dust into the air, their voices thick with hunger and cruelty. The auctioneer barked prices like he was selling cattle, but she kept her chin up. She wouldn't let them take that from her. "Last one today," he shouted. "Strong young woman. Field work. Housework. Whatever you need." Lily's wrists throbbed beneath the iron cuffs. Sweat rolled down her spine. Her torn dress clung to her like old paper, but her dark eyes stayed steady, refusing to drop. If she looked down, if she let them see her fear, she'd be giving them more than her body. She'd be giving them victory. A man in a stained vest spat tobacco and yelled, 60. Another shouted, 75. Lily forced her breathing slow. She focused past the crowd, past the greedy faces, past the sun, and that's when she saw him. Not bidding, not leering, just watching. A tall man leaning against a post by the general store. Hot politlo, coat worn, boots dusty. A man carrying silence like a second skin. He didn't look angry. He didn't look hungry. He looked hollow. 100, the fat man roared. The auctioneer lifted his gavel, grinning wide enough to show his gold tooth. 100, going once, the stranger stepped forward. His shadow fell across the dust. The crowd quieted, turning like a school of fish sensing a predator. Even the horses stopped shifting. Then the man spoke, his voice low and steady. 500. The square went dead still. Gasps echoed. Someone cursed. $500 was more money than some folks saw in 2 lifetimes. Lily's heart slammed against her ribs. The auctioneer blinked hard. "Sir, did you say?" "You heard me." The man didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. 500. Cash. And in that moment, as the crowd pulled back from him like he carried fire, Lily saw something in his gray eyes that stole her breath. Not ownership, not desire, but recognition. Like he'd stood where she stood. Like he knew the weight of chains. Like he'd lost enough to understand what being bought felt like. 500 going once. The auctioneer choked out, half in shock. Going twice. He didn't dare ask for a higher bid. Sold. The gavel cracked the air like a gunshot. It was done. Her fate sealed. The stranger climbed the platform steps. Lily stiffened, ready for anything. But he stopped one step below her, looking up with a face carved from grief and dust. "Come on down," he said softly. Not an order, a request. She descended, legs shaking. The auctioneer shoved the gold into his hands. "Want papers drawn up? Bill of sale." The stranger's eyes hardened. "No papers." "But sir, no papers," he repeated, voice like stone. Lily blinked. No papers meant no claim of ownership. No legal hold. No proof she belonged to him. Why would he buy her without wanting proof? He turned to her again. "What's your name?" "Lily," she whispered. He removed his hat, revealing iron-gray hair and a face lined by heartbreak. "My name's Caleb Mercer." She swallowed hard. She'd heard that name before. Years ago, a rancher from the North Ridge. A man who lost his wife and daughter to winter fever. Lost his cattle. Lost his home. Lost everything. "That's all I have to give you," Caleb said. "My name. And protection. If you want it." Lily stared at him. "I don't understand." "Walk with me," he murmured. "Not here." They moved toward an old cottonwood tree at the edge of the square. Caleb kept a respectful distance, his hands down, palms open, showing he meant no harm. "I had a ranch once," he said quietly. "A family. My daughter, Hannah. She was about your age." Pain flickered across his face like lightning. 3 months ago, he continued, "I buried them both." Lily's throat tightened. She had seen that look before, in people who had lost so much they didn't know what to hold on to anymore. "I've been drifting," Caleb said, "trying to understand why I'm still breathing." He met Lily's eyes. "Then I saw you up there, standing proud, even with chains on your wrists. And for the first time in months, I felt something." "What?" Lily asked, voice trembling. "Purpose." Her heart stumbled. Caleb reached into his coat, and pulled out a folded document. The paper was worn at the corners, sealed with territorial markings. I had this drawn up this morning. He handed it to her gently. Before the auction even began, Lily unfolded it, breath catching in her chest. Her name was written there. Not Lily Jiang. Lily Mercer. The word adoption stared back at her. Her knees nearly gave out. You want to adopt me? She whispered. But you don't know me. I know enough, Caleb said softly. I know dignity when I see it. And strength. And I know no one deserves to stand on a platform like that. Her eyes burned. Why would you give this to me? Because I couldn't save Hannah. His voice cracked. But maybe I can save someone. Lily swallowed, looking at the signature line. Her hand trembled. Caleb, I can't take your daughter's place. You're not meant to. He lifted his gaze. But you could take her name and make it mean something again. Before she could speak, distant hoofbeats rolled across the square like distant thunder. Caleb's head snapped up. They're early, he muttered. Who? Lily asked, panic rising. Riders, Caleb said, jaw tightening. Coming fast. The hoofbeats grew louder. Closer. Heavier. Lily, he said urgently, pressing the pencil into her hand. Sign. Now. But her fingers froze. Through the heat haze, 5 horses stormed into town. For deputies. And one man in a black suit. Lily's breath left her body. Her stomach turned to stone. Caleb's eyes hardened when he saw the rider. Who is he? He asked quietly. Lily's voice was barely a whisper. Silas Moreland. The man who owned me. Caleb stepped in front of her. The riders dismounted. Silas Moreland's cold blue eyes locked onto Lily. There she is, he said. My runaway. Caleb reached for his gun. Sign the papers, he murmured without looking back. Lily lifted the pencil, and the square went silent as death. Silas Moreland walked toward them with slow, deliberate steps, his boots tapping against the hard ground like the ticking of a clock. He carried no whip, no rope, no chains. He didn't need them. Men like Silas held power the way a rattlesnake held venom. Naturally, dangerously, and without apology. Lily felt her body fold in on itself. Her breath grew tight. Her fingers curled around the pencil until her knuckles turned white. Caleb stood tall beside her, blocking Silas's path with the quiet confidence of a man who'd already lost everything worth losing. Sheriff, Silas said coolly, turning to the lawman. I expect cooperation. That girl is stolen property. Lily flinched at the word. Sheriff Dalton Reeves shifted uneasily in his saddle. Now, Silas, the law says, the law, Silas interrupted, says a runaway slave must be returned to her rightful owner. I have filed the report. I have the description. I have the witnesses. And I have every intention of enforcing that law. He turned his head slowly toward Lily. I told you I'd find you, girl. You should have known you can't outrun me. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. Her knees threatened to buckle. Memories clawed at her. Whips cracking, shackles closing, endless days of back-breaking labor under a sun that felt like judgment. She swallowed, forcing air into her lungs. Not again. Not this time. Caleb's voice broke through the noise. She's not your property. Silas looked at him like he'd just spoken nonsense. And who are you? Some vagrant with a hero complex. Name's Caleb Mercer. Silas blinked. Just once. The name hit him like a rock tossed into still water. Mercer, he murmured. The rancher who lost his land. His cattle. His family. Caleb didn't flinch. He'd heard that tone before. Pity laced with cruelty. I heard you wandered into the mountains after they died, Silas continued. Figured you wouldn't be coming back. I didn't come back for you, Caleb said quietly. I came back for her. Silas smirked. She's not your concern. Caleb stepped forward. She's my daughter. A hush swept through the square. Even a sheriff's eyes widened. Silas laughed. A sharp, mocking sound. Your daughter? Don't insult me, Mercer. We both know what she is. Caleb didn't react. Didn't blink. Didn't move. Instead, he reached into his coat and slowly pulled out the adoption papers. Signed. Witnessed. Sealed by the territorial judge. Sheriff Reeves took them, eyes scanning quickly. His brow furrowed deeper with each line he read. These are legitimate, he said finally. Judge Halston stamped M himself. Silas snatched the papers away, his jaw tight with fury. This means nothing. You can't adopt stolen property. Judge Halston seems to think otherwise, Caleb replied calmly. Silas's chest heaved. His face turned a deeper shade of red. She belongs to me, he hissed. She was born on my plantation. She worked my fields. She is my investment. Lily stiffened. A tremor ran through her hands. Caleb didn't look away from Silas. Not once. Show your proof, Caleb said. Silas's smile sharpened. Gladly, he reached into his coat again and produced a folded document. A bill of sale. Yellowed. Old. Stamped with the insignia of the old Mississippi territories. He handed it to the sheriff. Reeves unfolded it slowly, reading each line. His eyes narrowed. This says the girl you claim, named Magnolia, has a crescent-shaped birthmark on her left shoulder. Silas crossed his arms. Exactly. Then show them. Caleb murmured to Lily, his voice low and steady. Show the truth. Lily hesitated. Every instinct she had screamed against it. She'd been taught to hide, to avoid attention, to obey, to disappear. But she wasn't property anymore. Slowly, she loosened the torn fabric over her shoulder and let it fall just enough to reveal bare skin. Smooth, unmarked, no crescent-shaped birthmark, not even a freckle. A wave of murmurs rolled through the crowd. Silas stared like he couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. It must have faded, or you're covering it with dirt. Or birthmarks don't fade, Sheriff Reeves said firmly. This document doesn't describe this young woman. Silas's jaw clenched so tight the vein in his neck pulsed. She's lying, he whispered. She has to be. Judge Halston approached thin, tall, stern, wearing his black traveling coat. He must have been in the area and heard the commotion. He took the papers from Reeves. These adoption documents bear my signature, he said. Filed legally. Verified. Approved. Silas's voice shook with rage. She is my property. No, the judge said, his voice like a thunderclap. She is Lily Mercer, a free citizen, and any attempt to seize her now will be treated as kidnapping. Silas took one step closer. Caleb matched him, and for a heartbeat, the world held still. You think this ends here? Silas whispered. You think I'll let some broken rancher steal from me? Caleb's voice was quiet, but deadly. She's not stolen. She was never yours. The tension snapped like a whip. Silas surged forward, and Caleb drew his revolver, cocking it with a single decisive movement. Every man in the square froze. Try, Caleb said, voice like gravel. I'm right here. Silas's eyes burned with hate, but he didn't draw. Not in front of lawmen. Not in front of a judge. He spun on his heel. This isn't over. I'll be back. With proof. With men. With the law. He mounted his horse, fury shaking his shoulders. And I'll burn your world to the ground before I let you take what's mine. He jerked the reins. His men rode off behind him, dust swirling in their wake. Silence settled over the square. Lily's breath came shaky and uneven. Caleb holstered his gun slowly, then turned to her. We're leaving, he said softly. But, Lily whispered, tears stinging her eyes. Will he follow? Caleb met her gaze with steady, unbreakable resolve. He can chase us across every mile of this frontier, he said, but he'll never own you again. Her throat tightened. He held out his hand. You ready, Lily Mercer? She stared at that rough, scarred hand, the hand of a man who had lost everything, and still gave her something she never had. A name, a future, a family. She placed her hand in his. Yes, she whispered. I'm ready. They turned toward the horses waiting at the edge of town. Behind them, the crowd quietly parted, not out of fear, but out of respect. Lily tightened her grip on the adoption papers. Her new life was beginning. The farther Lily and Caleb rode from town, the quieter the world became. No shouting, no gavel cracks, no men arguing over her worth in dollars and sweat. Only the steady beat of hooves and the whisper of wind in the sagebrush. But silence didn't bring peace. Not yet. Every snap of a twig made Lily flinch. Every rustle sent her heart into a sprint. Every shadow felt like Silas Moreland reaching for her again. Caleb noticed. He didn't mention it. Instead, he slowed his horse so theirs moved side by side. Close enough she could sense his presence. A quiet, steady anchor holding her to the moment. "You're safe for now," he said gently. Lily nodded, though her breath still shook. They rode into a shallow valley where the land dipped into a bowl of tall grass and scattered cottonwoods. Caleb stopped near a creek, dismounted, and helped her down from her horse. His hands were careful, respectful, guiding rather than gripping. Lily stepped onto the ground, legs trembling with exhaustion. The adrenaline was wearing off. Fear left behind an aching emptiness. Caleb tied both horses and knelt beside the creek, splashing cool water onto his face. He motioned for her to join him. Lily approached slowly and knelt across from him, dipping her hands into the icy stream. The shock of cold steadied her nerves. Caleb watched her for a long moment. "You did well back there," he said. Her head lifted in surprise. I froze. "You stood your ground," Caleb said. "That's more than most grown men do when Silas Moreland looks at them." She looked down at her reflection rippling in the water. The girl staring back seemed like a stranger. Eyes too dark, shoulders too stiff, spine held straight out of habit rather than pride. "I wasn't brave," she whispered. Caleb leaned back on his heels. "Bravery ain't never about not being scared. It's about what you do when you're trembling." A breeze rustled the grass around them. Lily closed her eyes, letting it brush against her face. For the first time since dawn, she allowed herself a breath that didn't feel stolen. "Why would he come after me like that?" she asked softly. "Even when the judge said I was free?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "Because men like Silas don't care what's legal, only what they own." "I'm not his," Lily said, the words fierce but shaky. "Not anymore," Caleb answered. "And not ever again." A long silence stretched between them, soft as dusk. Then Caleb reached into his coat and pulled out the adoption papers again. The edges were slightly creased from Silas's hands, but the seal still glimmered in the fading light. "These are yours," he said, offering them to her. Lily didn't move. Her fingers curled tight around her knees. "I don't know if I can," she whispered. "Sign them. Take your name. I'm scared it'll get you killed." Caleb studied her carefully. "You don't owe me anything, Lily. I'm not asking for obedience. I'm offering protection. But it'll make him come harder," she said. "You hurt him. I've lived through worse." "Have you?" Lily's voice cracked. "Silas doesn't stop. He doesn't forget. If he says he'll burn your world down, he will." Caleb exhaled slowly, memories casting shadows across his face. "My world already burned," he said quietly. "You're looking at the ashes." Lily felt something inside her twist. Grief for a man she barely knew, and fear for what he was willing to risk. "He'll take everything you have left," she whispered. Caleb met her eyes. "There ain't much left to take, except what I choose to build again." She swallowed hard. "And you want to build with me?" Caleb hesitated, just long enough for her heart to stutter. "Only if it's what you want to," he said. Lily stared down at her hands. They were thin, trembling, scarred from years of work. They didn't look like the hands of someone who belonged to a family. "I've never had a real name," she said quietly. "Not one that meant something." Caleb waited. "I want to sign it," she breathed. "Ido. But every choice I've ever made, someone punished me for it." Caleb reached across the space between them and placed the pencil beside her. "You're not under anyone's boot now," he said. "Not Silas. Not the law. Not me." His voice softened further. "You get to choose your life." Lily lifted the papers with trembling hands. Her eyes traced the letters again. Lily Mercer, daughter of Caleb Mercer, her throat constricted. Before she could speak, a sudden rustle broke through the grass, a rapid, uneven sound. Caleb's hand shot to his revolver. Lily scrambled backward, heart racing. Branches parted. Footsteps approached. Fast. Caleb rose, gun drawn, stance firm. His eyes narrowed. Then a voice called out, "Don't shoot! Don't shoot!" A boy stumbled into the clearing. A skinny teenager with straw-colored hair, dirt streaked across his face, and panic etched into every line of his expression. Caleb didn't lower the gun. "Who are you?" he demanded. The boy doubled over, catching his breath. Micah. Name's Micah Turner. Caleb's jaw clenched. Why are you following us? I tried to, but you rode too fast. Micah gulped down air, shaking. Mr. Mercer, sheriff sent me. He said Silas is coming after you. Lily's breath faltered. Caleb kept his gun trained on the boy. We know Silas isn't letting this go. Micah shook his head violently. No, you don't understand. It ain't just Silas this time. Caleb's grip tightened. Speak plain, boy. Micah swallowed hard. He's bringing 8 riders with him, armed. He's heading this way. Lily's heart dropped into her stomach. Micah's voice trembled as he forced out the final words. And he told everyone in town the same thing. If Mercer wants to play father, let's see how long he survives. The valley fell silent. Caleb lowered his gun, only slightly. Lily clutched the papers to her chest, knuckles white. 8 riders. Silas Moreland. Coming for her. Because of the name she hadn't even signed yet. Caleb turned to her slowly. Lily, he said softly, we have little time. She stared back, breath shallow, the weight of her future pressing down like a storm. The pencil lay in the grass beside her. Her hand hovered over it. One stroke of ink could save her life. Or end Caleb's. The choice lay in her trembling fingers. The air in the valley shifted, heavy, tight, like the world itself was holding its breath. Micah Turner stood, trembling near the creek, his chest rising and falling too fast. Lily sat frozen beside the adoption papers, the pencil lying on the grass like a loaded gun. And Caleb Mercer. Caleb stood tall and still as stone, his jaw set, his eyes fixed on the line of hills beyond them. Silas Moreland was coming. Not alone. 8 riders. Armed. Hungry for blood. Caleb's voice broke the silence first. Micah, he said calm but firm, tell me everything. The boy swallowed, wiping sweat from his brow. Sheriff said Silas rode and yelling you stole from him. Folks tried to calm him, but he weren't listening. He marched straight into the general store, waved a wad of money around, and hired every rough-hander who'd ride with him. How long before they get here? Caleb asked. Not long. Maybe 20 minutes. Maybe less. Lily's breath hitched. Her fingers curled around the edges of the adoption papers. 20 minutes. 20 minutes until Silas Moreland came to drag her away or kill the man who dared to stand between them. Caleb knelt in front of her. The hard edge in his expression softened when he looked into her frightened eyes. Lily, he said quietly, listen to me. Her throat tightened. I'm listening. I need you to understand something. He took the adoption papers from her trembling hands and placed them gently on her lap. You signing this ain't what puts me in danger. Lily shook her head. If Silas thinks I'm your daughter, he already decided I'm protecting you. Caleb's voice was calm, steady as a heartbeat. Whether you sign or not, he's riding here to kill me. The truth landed heavy. Too heavy. Lily's eyes filled with tears she tried to blink away. Caleb continued, his voice low. The only thing your signature changes is whether he can take you after I'm gone. Her breath caught. Don't say that. Lily, he whispered, I'm not planning to die. I'm planning to fight. But you need legal protection. Something Silas can't tear apart with threats and guns. She stared hard at the papers. The letters of her new name glimmered faintly in the creekside light. Lily Mercer. It felt more real than anything she had ever touched. Micah shifted nervously. Mr. Mercer, we gotta move. Either hide or run or something. Caleb didn't take his eyes off Lily. Do you want this name? Her lips parted, trembling. I want a life where I'm not someone's property, she whispered. I want a name that means I belong somewhere. Belong to someone who doesn't hurt me. Caleb's voice warmed with something gentle, wounded, and fierce. Then take it, Lily. Her fingers closed around the pencil. Her hand steadied. For a moment, the world went quiet. Lily leaned over the paper and wrote the name carefully, shaping each letter with deliberate strokes. Lily Mercer. She exhaled, a small, trembling sound that felt like freedom pressed into ink. Caleb touched her shoulder lightly. That's my girl. The words hit her heart like a sunrise. Soft, warm, true. But the moment shattered as Micah's head jerked toward the hills. "Riders," he gasped. "They're coming fast." Caleb rose in one motion, his hand going to his revolver. "Mount up, both of you." Lily stood, clutching the papers. "Where do we go?" "Away from the open." Caleb scanned the valley. "Into the timberline. If they see us out here, we're done." Micah helped Lily onto her horse as Caleb hastily packed the papers into his coat. Dust plumes appeared on the horizon. 9 riders moving like a thunderstorm rolling over dry land. "Go," Caleb ordered. They rode hard toward the line of trees, a jagged strip of pines and twisted oaks clinging to the hill. The horses' hooves pounded the ground, scattering birds and whipping dust into the air. Behind them, the riders closed in. Silas's voice carried on the wind. "Mercer, you can't run from this." Lily felt ice crawl up her spine. She gripped the reins tighter, urging the horse faster. Branches slapped her arms as they broke into the trees. Micah rode behind her, breathing hard. Caleb brought up the rear, his horse pushing forward with fierce determination. "Stay close," Caleb called. The forest grew dense. Shadows swallowed the sun. The ground grew uneven, roots, rocks, narrow hollows. But they kept going. Until, crack, a gunshot split the air. Lily ducked instinctively as bark exploded from a tree beside her head. "Down!" Caleb shouted. "Off the horses!" They slid to the ground, scrambling behind fallen logs as more gunshots thundered through the woods. Silas and his men were riding straight toward them. Caleb crouched beside Lily, checking his revolver. 6 bullets. Lily trembled. "We can't outrun them in here." "No," Caleb said, "but we can outthink them." Micah pressed himself behind a stump. "Mr. Mercer, what do we do?" Caleb's eyes scanned the terrain, quick and sharp. Then he pointed toward a narrow ravine cutting through the forest floor, partially hidden by brush. "Down there." Lily blinked. "A ravine. It's deep," Caleb said, "and it'll hide us." "Micah, you go first." Micah scrambled down the rocky slope. Caleb turned to Lily. "Your turn. Careful now." She nodded, lowering herself down the embankment. The rocks scraped her palms, but she moved quickly. Caleb followed last, sliding down the dirt wall just as Silas's riders crashed into the clearing above. Lily held her breath. Hoofbeats, snorts, the clink of metal. Then Silas's voice, cold and venomous. "I know you're down there, Mercer." Caleb pressed his back against the ravine wall, shielding Lily with his body. Silas's words slithered down into the shadows. "You think a piece of paper changes anything? She was mine, and I always take back what's mine." Lily felt Caleb's hand close around hers, steady and strong. "We hold here," he whispered. No sound. Above them, a rider dismounted. The crunch of boots on dirt came closer to the edge. Micah's eyes widened in terror. Lily squeezed Caleb's hand. Then Silas's shadow stretched across the ravine edge. He leaned forward, gun in hand, searching, hunting, almost close enough to see them. Lily's breath stopped. Caleb's jaw set like iron, and everything hung on the edge of a single heartbeat. Silas Moreland's shadow hovered above the ravine like a vulture waiting for death. Caleb held Lily's hand tight, grounding her breath with his own. Micah crouched lower, biting his lip so hard it nearly bled. The forest went silent except for the faint jingle of tack above them. Silas's voice slithered down the ravine walls. "Caleb Mercer, you always were a fool. Noble. Stupid." A small chuckle. "Thought I let a little scrap of paper keep me from what's mine." Lily's stomach twisted. She wasn't his. She had never been his. But Silas believed the world belonged to him, and anything he touched was property. Heavy boots scraped the edge of the ravine. Crunch, crunch, closer. Caleb's fingers twitched near the grip of his revolver. Not yet, Lily thought. Not yet. One wrong move, and Silas's men would unleash hell down into the ravine. Silas leaned over the edge, scanning the shadows. A thin beam of sunlight caught the barrel of his pistol, pointed directly down at where Lily crouched. Her breath hitched. Caleb moved, not enough to be seen, but enough to shield her. Silas tilted his head, listening, looking, sensing. Then, a rifle cracked in the distance. Silas jerked back instinctively, scanning the trees. "What the hell was that?" one of his men shouted. Sounded like it came from the ridge. Another shot rang out, closer this time. Silas swore under his breath. "Damn it. Probably hunters or one of those nosy ranch folk. Circle out." Hoofbeats thundered as the riders pulled away from the ravine edge. Silas lingered a moment longer, breathing hard, furious, frustrated. Then he mounted up, spat into the dirt, and rode off with the others. The forest swallowed their echoing hoofbeats. Only after several long seconds did Caleb exhale. Micah slumped against the ravine wall. "Thought that was the end of us." Almost was. Caleb slowly rose to his feet. "We're not out of trouble yet." Lily clutched her chest, the tremor in her hands refusing to stop. She looked at Caleb. "You saved me again." He shook his head. "You saved yourself by signing those papers." But Lily could see the truth. He had risked everything again. The climb out of the ravine left their arms and legs burning. When they reached the top, the forest felt different, like it was holding secrets, like it had watched the entire scene unfold with silent witness. Caleb checked the tracks around the clearing. They headed southwest, toward Dry Gulch. Micah nodded. "They'll be back." Caleb wiped sweat from his brow. "Then we keep moving." Lily touched his sleeve. "Where?" "We can't outrun them forever." "No," Caleb said, "but we can outsmart him." He pointed toward the western ridge, where the mountains rose like jagged teeth against the afternoon sky. "Up there is Half Moon Pass. There's an old miner's shack built into the rock. Barely standing, but it's hidden. Good enough to lay low till dark." Micah's eyes widened. "That place? Folks say it's haunted." "Good," Caleb said. "Haunted keeps people away." They hurried through the forest shadows, moving fast but careful. Branches snapped underfoot. Leaves rustled. The air smelled like pine sap and danger. Lily stayed close to Caleb. His steady stride gave her courage she didn't think she had. They reached the base of the ridge as the sun dipped low, staining the world in blood-red light. The climb was steep. Stones rolled under their feet. Dust rose with every step. Lily stumbled once, but Caleb caught her elbow. "You all right?" Her breath trembled. "Just tired." "You've been running your whole life," he said softly. "You're allowed to be tired." His gentleness almost broke her. Micah scrambled ahead. "I see it." The shack's still there, half hidden under a ledge of rock. The shack crouched like a forgotten memory. Weather-beaten boards, rusted hinges, a crooked stone chimney. But it was shelter. Caleb led them inside. Dust floated in the slanted light. A single broken cot leaned in the corner. Everything smelled of old wood and colder nights. "We'll stay here till dark," Caleb said. "Then head west." Micah hesitated. "Mr. Mercer, what if Silas gets back up? What if he brings more men?" Caleb looked him dead in the eye. "Then he'll find a man who won't run." Lily swallowed hard. She walked to the small broken window overlooking the valley. From here, she could see everything. The valley where she almost died. The river she crossed escaping. The town square where Caleb gave away his last gold to save her. She pressed her palms against the windowsill. "Caleb," she whispered, "why do you keep risking your life for me?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped beside her, looking out over the same valley. "For 3 months," he said quietly, "I kept asking God why I survived when my family didn't." Lily felt the words crack something inside her. "I had nothing left," he continued. "No home, no purpose, no one who needed me." He turned to her. "Then I saw you on that platform, standing proud, refusing to bow. And something in me said, that's someone worth fighting for." A tear slipped down Lily's cheek. "Caleb," he touched the locket resting at her collarbone. "Emma's locket. You're my daughter now. Not because the paper says so. Because I chose you. Because you matter." Lily covered his hand with hers. Family. Real family. Chosen, not born. Before she could speak, Micah's terrified whisper cut through the room. "Mr. Mercer." They both turned. Micah pointed outside, his face pale as winter frost. Down in the valley, tiny silhouettes were appearing. Horseback riders. Dozens. Not 8 or 9. A whole column. No, Lily whispered. Caleb stepped closer to the window. Silas Moreland had returned, with 20 men, riding straight toward Half Moon Pass. His voice dropped to a deadly calm. He brought an army. Lily grabbed his arm. Caleb, we can't fight that many. No, he said. But maybe we don't have to, because something else was approaching from the opposite ridge. Another group of riders, badges glittering in the sunset. Lawmen, and their leader rode tall on a black horse. Judge Caldwell. Micah gasped. How'd they find us? Caleb's mouth tightened. They weren't looking for us, he said. They were tracking Silas. The two groups were on a collision course. Lily's heart raced. This valley was about to explode. The valley below Half Moon Pass turned heavy and hushed, as if even the wind knew what was coming. Two forces rode toward each other, Silas Moreland with 20 armed men, and Judge Caldwell with 6 federal marshals at his back. Lily clutched Caleb's sleeve as the sun bled red across the sky. Caleb, what do we do? His eyes stayed fixed on the riders below, his jaw clenched tight. We stay hidden. Let the law take the first step. Micah crouched near the doorway, trembling. Those marshals, they look ready for war. They are, Caleb murmured. Caldwell doesn't ride this far out unless he's got something solid. Lily's heart pounded so hard it hurt. Silas hadn't come quietly. As Caleb predicted, he had returned with an army. Men hired with coin and whiskey. Men who didn't care about law or mercy. Caleb placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. His voice dropped low and calm. No matter what happens down there, Lily, stay behind me. She nodded slowly, but her eyes didn't leave the valley. It wasn't courage she felt, just a desperate need for this nightmare to finally end. Below them, the two groups met in the center of the valley. Judge Caldwell pulled up his horse, lifting a hand. Silas Moreland, he called across the dusty space. You're riding with too many guns for a man with nothing to hide. Silas smiled. It was a cold, venomous thing. I've got every right to defend what's mine, Judge. Caldwell's gaze hardened. A girl is not property. That law changed 3 years ago, and you know it. Silas spat into the dirt. Paper laws. Words written by politicians far away. She worked on my land, ate my food, slept under my roof. That makes her mine. A murmur of disgust rippled through Caldwell's men. Caldwell straightened in his saddle. We raided your plantation this morning, Silas. Found locked quarters. Chains. Ledgers with names that aren't your kin. His expression sharpened into steel. You're done. Silas stiffened. His hand drifted toward his gun. You got no proof. The judge's voice cracked like thunder. The hell I don't. He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a folded document. Affidavits from 6 of the people you kept in chains. A confession from your own foreman. And proof your bill of sale is forged. Silas's face went white, then twisted into rage. You think paper will stop me? He hissed. I'll take the girl back myself. He raised his hand. Guns. 20 rifles lifted, and the air snapped with danger. Caleb's breath stopped. Down, he whispered. Both of you. Lily dropped to the floor. Micah pressed himself tight to the wall. Outside, horses shuffled as nerves shook through the valley. Caldwell didn't flinch. He simply lowered his chin. Marshal Avery, he said. The marshal beside him drew out a second document, sealed in red wax. Warrant for your arrest, Silas Moreland. Human trafficking, kidnapping, fraud, unlawful confinement. Silas's lip curled. You gonna take me in, Judge? If you surrender, Caldwell said evenly, you'll stand trial. Silas's laugh was wild and sharp. You think I'm walking into a courtroom like a lamb? His hand dropped to his revolver, and that was enough. Gunfire exploded through the valley. Caleb's heart slammed against his ribs. Stay low, he yelled. Lily flattened herself behind the cot. Micah covered his head as glass shattered from the shack's tiny window. Below, Silas's men fired wildly as Caldwell's marshals returned steady, lethal shots. Horses screamed. Dust kicked up in violent bursts. The air filled with smoke and the metallic scent of gunpowder. Caleb peered out the broken window. Silas rode like a man possessed, charging forward, firing both pistols, determined to cut through the marshals and reach the mountainside. Reach her. No. Caleb's chest tightened. He knew exactly where Silas was heading. Micah scrambled to the doorway. Mr. Mercer, he's coming this way. Caleb grabbed his arm. Stay inside, but Lily rose to her knees. Caleb, he'll kill you. Caleb turned to her, gripping her hands tight. He won't get that chance. His voice steadied. Not while I'm breathing. Her eyes glistened. I'm not leaving you. He touched her cheek, gentle as a whisper. You're my daughter now, Lily, and I'm going to do what fathers do. He stepped back toward the open shack door. Protect their own. Silas burst from the tree line. His horse lathered and wild, eyes rolling white. His face twisted with fury. There you are, he roared. Give her back, Mercer. Caleb drew his revolver slowly, calmly. Lily Mercer is free, he said. His shot struck Silas's pistol, knocking it from his hand. The metal clattered to the ground, spinning into the dust. Silas stared at his empty hand in disbelief. Caleb leveled his revolver. It's over. Silas lunged for a second pistol at his belt. Caleb fired again. Silas jerked backward, hit deep in the shoulder. He toppled from his horse, crashing hard into the dirt. Caleb didn't move, didn't celebrate. He just stood breathing heavily, revolver still steady. Judge Caldwell rode in moments later, marshals close behind. Silas Moreland, Caldwell declared, you are under arrest. Silas writhed in the dirt, clutching his wound, his voice a broken rasp. She's mine. Caleb finally lowered his gun. No, he said quietly. She's my daughter. Lily ran to him. Caleb. She threw her arms around him, sobbing into his chest. You're hurt. He leaned into her, breathing in her hair, his voice tender and ragged. I'm here, Lily. I'm right here. Micah looked between them, wiping his eyes. Is it really over? Judge Caldwell nodded solemnly. It is now. Silas was dragged away in irons. His men scattered or surrendered. The valley fell quiet again, save for the distant call of a hawk and the soft rustling of pine needles. Lily held Caleb tighter. Caleb, thank you, she whispered, for saving me, for giving me a name, for choosing me. He rested his forehead gently against hers. You saved me too, he whispered. More than you know. The next morning, Lily Mercer and Caleb Mercer rode west, toward land untouched, sky wide open, and a future neither had dared dream of. 2 horses, 2 souls, 1 family, and as the sun rose over the frontier, painting the world gold, Lily touched the locket at her throat. A new name, a new beginning, a father who chose her, a life finally her own. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's chosen. If you felt this tale in your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wild West Emotional Tales, where every story rides through the dust, the danger, and the kind of love that never dies. See you in the next tale, partner.